Hi. This next episode, we have Wade Millward. And Wade is somebody who I met on a trip of insurtech event. And I thought he's building something pretty cool, pretty interesting. And also, he's part of the Utah insurance insurtech community. So, I want to bring you both, right? Someone who's part of a community that he's building locally, and also someone who is building a cool software and product in the franchise space. So I hope you enjoy this next episode. Welcome to the show. Welcome to this episode of Founder's Journey. And today I have a guest. His name is Wade Millward. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Jeff. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm going to just bring our audience up to speed and give them a little bit of the backdrop. So Wade and I think we met each other 3 years ago on
I don't know.
yeah, somewhere 2 or 3 years ago. It was on a insurtech event, right?
Yeah, New Mexico.
Yeah. What's the name of it? Whitewater rafting, insurtech.
It was InsurTech. It was
So
put on by like InsurTech Hartford, Stacy Brown, and those guys kind of put it on. I
yeah,
think David was there from over at, what's it called? InsurTech New York,
insurtech New
right?
York. Yeah, insurtech
Yep.
New York, insurtech Hartford, Stacey Brown, David Gritz. Shout out to those guys.
Yeah.
Really well done event, and just give backdrop of the event is basically they put together a 3 day event of relaxing activities and classroom sessions, right? You decompress a little bit, but you get to these classroom sessions where you hear a speaker come in. The speakers range from founders who are in pre-seed stage, seed stage, and also previous founder who are in Series A, Series B. They come back to the event, they speak, say, we got funding through these events, and this is how we progress, this is what we achieved. And I
Yep.
remember Cowbell was at our event, right? And they had a chance to speak about it. And also they invite founders who are going through their journey looking for institutional backings. And on the other side of the event, they invite VCs. We had QBE venture guys in there in the room. We had guys from a couple other places. I'm drawing blank on them. And
Yeah.
also
Investment banker Garrett was there. I can't remember where he was at or where he's at right now, but yeah, there's a
Oppenheimer.
few. Yep.
I
Oh, and
think Gary is with
also,
Oppenheimer.
yep. Also, the guy from either Allstate or, anyways, one of those larger VC funds from an insurance company was there too. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kyle Betty.
I think one guy was from American Family that was there as well.
Yep. Yeah, it was cool. Great people.
And also for that event, they invited native community family
Yep.
offices. I think we had 5 or 6 family offices from New Mexico,
Yep.
Santa Fe Springs that was there. And, they have like a local fund that they invest in tech companies, right? So anyways, so I met Wade there and I thought you had an interesting startup idea. So, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the mic over to you. And then if you can just share with us about how you get into insurance and what led you to the startup idea that you are building.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Appreciate that, Jeff. Where do I begin? I think maybe just how I started. I think like many of us, you fall into the insurance industry. You don't typically sign up for it. It just kind of happens. I was a third generation insurance professional. My grandfather started a company. My dad jumped in the 1970s, and I jumped in around 2007. And man, I'll never forget the first 2-3 weeks of that experience. It was miserable. I did not enjoy it at all. I don't know how many people can relate with me, but it was bad, man. Like I hated it. And I remember, showing up to the office, not having really any other backup plan. I decided not to go to college at the time. I was going to work for my dad, see how that went. And I just realized like I had no other option. I had to make this thing work. And so you get inside the office, you sit down at that brown wooden desk. You're asked to call on 1,000 contacts, with an Excel spreadsheet in front of you. And there I was making cold calls for the foreseeable future. And even thinking about it right now, like I think I have PTSD, and I don't want to like downplay that at all for anybody that actually has true PTSD in the military, but it was bad. But something that I've learned about is, and I didn't realize I had this mentality is there's a cool saying called "you burn the boats," basically meaning you have no other option. You can't get home. Like you burn the boats. This is it. You have to make it work. And that was my mentality. And so through a lot of grit and pain and suffering, I made it work. I probably maybe a little bit of above average producer, probably just because, you just keep grinding and I wanted to prove myself. And it took me a few years to kind of get my groove. And finally, I started doing really well. And I ultimately built a relatively large book of business and with commercial insurance. But that wasn't enough, man. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't happy. And I'll give you some context there. What is large? I mean, I feel like we're so ambiguous in the insurance space and nobody ever wants to share numbers anymore. It's like, oh, what does that mean? So I think my book was probably at its peak was around like 1.2 to $1.4 million in revenue. And so that was pretty cool, right? Like as a producer, like you made it, you're good. But I wasn't happy. I was completely unfulfilled. I felt like I reached my cap at a family agency, and I was butting heads with everybody, and I felt like the calling to become an entrepreneur. And anybody that's an entrepreneur knows that it's a calling, it's a vocation. You're compelled to do something. And I had a lot of ideas, which is super, super dangerous. And my wife one day told me about one of my ideas. She's like, you just got to stop. Like you got too many things going on. And I'm like, I think you're right. And that was hard. That was hard to listen to. But then this one idea just kept popping back into my mind. And it was about this franchise concept. And in 2018, I met this lady. Her name was Heidi Pei. And she was the second largest franchisee of the Sotheby's International Realty franchise brand with 1,000 franchisees. And she's the second largest. They're doing $100 million in revenue. I mean, by any means, that's a large company. And she approached me. She was one of my clients. We did the insurance for her. And she approached me asking me to solve some of her problems. And I didn't want to be the next Brown and Brown and go to an insurance company and do an insurance E&O program. And it just wasn't exciting to me. And so I created this concept. It was new, like it didn't exist before. And I came back to her and I had this pitch deck. And it was when people ask about that experience, right? And going through it, it wasn't something that took months to figure out. It was in a moment. Everything came to my mind and I started putting it. I still have the original deck and it's on blank slides with black type, text on 20 pages. And then I went and worked with the designer and he helped me build out the mock-up. And I went back to Heidi and I presented it to her and she's like, this is it. Like, you have to do this. Like, this is amazing. And fast forward a little bit, she even helped me iterate a little bit on it. And it was Halloween day of 2018. I remember because I was wearing a blow up unicorn costume. And she calls me 5 minutes before a meeting with the president. She goes, Wade, you have to be ready in 5 minutes because I have the president of Sotheby's International Realty on the phone. And you're going to present your idea to him. I was like, what?
Wow. What an opportunity that came knocking.
It's crazy. And at the time, Jeff, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. I had created this entirely new concept. It was a software play. It was insurance play. I didn't have a lick of software developed, nothing. And she's like, hey, you're going to present. I don't even know how to the talking points or the sound points or anything. And so I hop on the call with this dude and I'm just talking at him, just vomiting all over him. No questions. I don't know anything about him. I don't know if he's got any pain, the typical stuff you go through. I think I was just extremely nervous and probably a little excited and got through it. I'll never forget the thing he said. He's like, huh, this is interesting. And that was it. So, I was like, yeah, I think it's interesting too. So I did a little bit more market research.
Did you end up closing that call?
No. How? I don't know what I was going to be doing with it, right? I didn't know the next steps. But what I did think was maybe I have something here. And I think that's important for every entrepreneur out there is just realizing maybe you do have something. Maybe you've hit a chord with somebody. Maybe you have found pain that's real, that's relevant, that you can solve for. And the next question though is what do you do with it? And so many people out there are thinking that same exact thing. And they so badly want to start something. And the only thing you can do, the only choice you have, the only option is just taking action. Like, that's it. That's validation. Action is everything. And everybody has a great idea, but nobody wants to take action because action is scary. Well, what if I fail? Well, so what? It took me a long time to get over that fear. So the next step was I started asking around, and I was introduced to a local franchisor here in Utah. And I didn't know who this guy was. I didn't know how influential he was. I think I got really lucky. But again, luck is a byproduct of action. The only way you become lucky is if you start walking in the right direction, if you start taking action. So I meet down with this guy. I'm going through my pitch deck, talking to him, asking a bunch of questions. I'm like, now I'm smart enough to ask questions, right? So I'm asking him questions. And he stops me mid-sentence, cuts me off. He goes, Wade, how much is this going to cost to build? And I'm like, man, what kind of question is that? Like, I don't know how much it's going to, I have no idea. And I'm like, Scott, I'm not asking for money. I'm asking for feedback. And he's like, Wade, how much is this going to cost to build? He just keeps pushing. I'm like, man, I really don't know. And anybody that has built software is going to laugh at my response. So I finally come up with a number in my head. I'm such a smart guy. I know everything about software development. I know how much it's going to cost. And I say, I don't know, $50,000. And of course, totally unrealistic, like absolutely terrible number. Anybody asks you how much something costs to build software, just tell them you don't know and just refuse to say anything because it's going to be like at least 10x that, if not more. So anyways, he's like, look, and he starts to tell me his problem, and he has experience. He's a living situation or problem that I'm trying to solve. He's experiencing the problem I'm solving. And he goes and tells me his story about a franchisor and how he's growing his franchise brand and how he has 150 franchisees and how he cannot monitor insurance. It's terrible. Certificates of insurance are doing, a terrible job following up. Nobody's doing that. Like, there's no mail coming from it. The whole system is broken. And eventually there's a terrible accident and a subcontractor gets hurt and he gets sued for $5 million and he eventually settles after 5 years. So that's why the pain, it's visceral, right? He's feeling it. He's experiencing it. So anyways, he's like, you have to build this. And I have 2 people now from the franchise industry that like, you have to build this thing. And I'm like, crap, I guess I got to do something about this. But guess, Jeff, I sat on that idea for 18 months after that. I didn't do anything. I was terrified. I was scared. Like, I got a $1.4 million book. Why would I leave this? Like, you got to be kidding me. I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm going to throw it all away. And I did. I threw it all away. I walked away 18 months later and started this thing.
When was that?
That was I started officially March of 2020, but there's a story behind that too.
You're right at the COVID time.
Right at the COVID time, and I kind of led up to it, but I was butting heads with the family, right? My dad, my brothers. I needed to do something different. I couldn't just be a producer anymore. I couldn't just do a typical insurance agency anymore. I was going insane. Literally, like, I couldn't do it. And I was coming up with all these different ideas and nobody wanted to do anything. It was a lifestyle business for my father. And like, he was just content, right? He was great. He was in a great position. At that time, he was in his late 60s, like Jeff, the people that we were talking about, he's the guy, right? He's the guy. And I'm thinking, I got 30 more freaking years of this thing. Like, I don't want to do this. This is boring. Like, what am I doing? I exist to just like sling insurance. It's so stupid. So a really big thing happened, a massive blowout, big disagreements. I do something that they do not agree with. They suspend me for 2 weeks. My family, my brothers, mind you, I'm generating 60% of the revenue for the entire agency. They kicked me out. And I'm like, that's the catalyst. That was it. And I F you guys. The moment they did that, I was done. I made up my mind. I burned the boats again. I would never go back. So 2 weeks later, I show up, I sit down at the family table. My 2 brothers are there. My dad is there. And they ask me, what I learned. What wasn't the lesson? And I looked them all in the eyes and I said, I'm done with you all. I'm done with the agency. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be in administration. I don't want to do the technology. Like I'll be a 1099 and I'll work from home. I'm done. I burned the boats that day. I worked out a deal with my dad where I could service my accounts for 2 years, which was a blessing, but I was no longer doing it. I started the company. I incorporated to kind of like make it official, even though it didn't exist, you know what I'm saying? And for the next 18 months, I started working on this concept, the franchise concept. I called up the guy again. He was still interested. He jumped on as an investor, an advisor, and I learned a lot. I failed a lot in those beginning stages.
So that was your first pre-seed investor.
That was the guy. Yep.
That's awesome. That's a good story. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, since he was the one telling you got to do this, then he
jumped in.
Yeah.
He jumped in, man, from the very beginning. And I learned from him, Jeff, like the value of $1 from an investor is not 1-to-1. It depends on what that investor can bring to the table.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Right? His
100%.
dollar was like, for me, 20, 50 to 1. Like it was so much more. It was so significant because of what I learned about him is he was extremely influential. Guess what? This dude had all the moral authority in the world. He already had a successful exit. The guy was worth a lot of money. And it's not just about how much you're worth, but the fact that he had a successful exit in franchising, everybody looked to him as a thought leader. So then I all of a sudden realized the influence of thought leaders in industries. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I can just partner with thought leaders that believe in what I'm doing, I'm done. I'm golden.
That's not just a strategic investor. That's a strategic advisor as well. And which is something that you actually have to go pay people to join you, and you just got one for free because he have a common interest, right?
Yeah.
Like there's tons of investor money people want to invest in companies and founders, but at the end of the day, the strategic investors are so valuable. So kudos to you.
Dude, I look back though, Jeff, and I didn't know what I was doing. It was step by step. I'm like, oh, cool. This guy's interested. Let's go. And then I learned, right? It was, I wish I had the foresight and like, I had this magic ball and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the guy. He's going to be I'm like, no. But after I learned from that, I sought out more of those types of people, right? I learned that franchising is very intimate. It's a very small space, very relationship based. And so I was looking for people of influence and I found those people. I did my best to attract them. But all the time I'm asking myself the question of like, what kind of value can I bring to their lives? How do I help these people?
Was he local to you?
Yeah, he was local, man. I got lucky.
Yeah. I learned this recently, and also like probably the last 3-4 years, the Utah community of tech, entrepreneurship, even insurance, insurtech, private equities, family offices, everybody talk about Silicon Valley, Bay Area. People talk about New York, Boston, Chicago, right? And Miami. They should be talking about those communities. But can you give our listener a little bit background of everything that's happening the last 5 to 8 years in the Utah community? Thank you for all your support to our channel. Here is a quick word from our sponsor. Please click on the link below in the comment section to sign up for a demo with Track AI.
What if your insurance sales conversations could work harder for you? Meet Track, your AI-powered conversation intelligence partner. Track automatically captures and analyzes every customer interaction, providing instant call summaries, risk analysis, and AI-driven coaching insights. Say goodbye to manual note-taking and hello to more selling time. Track handles the admin work while you handle the revenue. Fully integrated with your favorite platforms. Plus, get custom AI analysis tailored to your unique business needs. Transform your sales team's performance with Track. Visit track.ai today.
Click the link in the description below to schedule a demo with Track today.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can actually. And I think it's relevant. I appreciate you bringing that up because when I talk to people here in Utah and I'm talking, founder to founder and we go out to lunch and stuff, I try to explain to them, or I don't have to explain to them. They know. I guess it's when I talk to people that are non-founders. I'm like, look, there's something about being in an area where there's so much activity going on. You feel compelled to do something. Like if you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm down the street 5 minutes away from Qualtrics that just sells for 1 point something billion dollars. I'm literally driving by their office. They sell for that much money. MX is down the street, another incredible financial institute or financial fintech play. What's it called? Finicity is down the street, sells for $984 million. Like an incredible fintech company. You have another $1 billion Divvy. I drive by the Divvy building, $2.4 billion in 4 years. And I look at this black building off the side of the I-15 and I look at it, I'm like, I got to have one of those.
I follow this guy named Sterling Snow. I don't know if
he was chief revenue officer of
Chief
Divvy.
Revenue Officer. Yeah, he started a new company now. I'm drawing blank on.
Redo,
yes. And
I know it. Trust me. Like I see it.
You know, like he brings so much of that Utah energy every single day. He's so hardcore. Let's fucking go, Utah.
Let's go, dude.
Right. And I'm just like, man, I want to move there, right? Like who is so proud of their community? And
Yes.
And as a founder, like it's really amazing community to be in because you have investors, family office, private equities, and you have all these things that's like, let's go build things, let's surround resources
Absolutely.
around you. So, you know, a lot of people talk about the West Coast, the Bay Area, but like Utah is such a hidden gem. Like it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's different. And you go in and you start learning about the Divvy. They're actually calling them the Divvy Mafia now, which is really interesting. Learn about the Divvy Mafia, learn about Blake Murray, the original founder. Go listen to the podcast, find it. I think it's on IO, a podcast that was started by two of the guys from Divvy, and listen to his mentality. It is radically different than the majority or the thought behind a lot of startup founders. I mean, it's phenomenal. So like I listened to that and I'm like, I got fired up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta go do something more. I gotta do more. Like, what am I doing with my life? But you know what's cool, Jeff, about Redo is they're an insurance play. Did you know that?
No, now I need to get Sterling on the podcast.
So
Wow.
I went to an event for startup founders at Pelion Ventures. That's where Sterling is at right now. He was partner there. Obviously, he's the CEO of Redo now. And I met some of the Redo guys very, very briefly. I'm just acquaintances. I don't know them personally. But I started looking into the company, and actually they mentioned it just briefly, but it is a spin on Divvy. It's free software for e-commerce companies, right? I love when they can change the way you monetize something. And then they offer an insurance product on the actual products that the e-commerce people sell. All your e-commerce software needs fulfilled for you for free. And by the way, we're just going to make money for basically on every single transaction. We're going to offer insurance to the end customer on the products, the shipping, the back and forth, they do everything. It's crazy. Super cool.
That is
insurance.
cool. You know,
It's
like
everywhere, man.
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
All right, we got off because
Yeah, whatever.
I'm a admirer of the Utah community because you guys
Thanks,
really help each other. But let's go back to your journey. So you got this pre-seed investor coming on board, and
Yeah.
what's next?
So he gets on board, and I messed up. That's probably what's next. Now, when I say I messed up, it wasn't like I messed up in a week. No. I messed up, and it took me 12 months to realize how I messed up, right? Like it was an entire year of wasted energy, effort, time, money, all of that. The initial concept actually was real-time insurance verification monitoring. I so badly wanted to kill Accords, pause for dramatic effect. Everybody can relate with me. Thank you. Jeff's like, don't say anything. That's too bad. I'm like, no, F you guys. I'm saying it. Kill Accord. Jeff's going to he's going to edit this out now, right? Like,
YouTube demonetize us.
we're just going to get cut right now. I'm like, it's terrible. Do you have any comments? Do you want me to just keep going? He's going to filter me.
No, this is going on.
Okay, good. So that was the idea. I'm like, F it, dude. Accords are terrible. I hate Accord applications. The COI is a worthless piece of garbage, right? Like it's not a contract. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't, confer any rights to the certificate holder. I mean, and we're just spreading this like fire, right? It's terrible. Insurance companies are paying out millions to protect themselves from litigation because certificates of insurance are terrible. Insurance agents are like typing manual crap into a certificate of insurance, not actually verifying the policy. Like everything you can imagine that is not right, we're doing it. And we're putting on a certificate of insurance. And we're like, yeah, that's fine. Oh, it's the industry standard. So stupid. So I'm like, dude, F this thing. So I start calling all my contacts at the insurance companies. I'm like, hey, I want to build the insurance, monitoring system, and we're going to kill a cord. Well, that didn't go over too well. So it took me 2 months to realize that was a fast learning lesson. I'm like, oh, like that's not going to work. Nobody wants to give me API access, like their back end, or like do all these things. Like I wanted to build version 25, Jeff. That's the lesson for everybody. You have to understand the innovation ecosystem, where all the stakeholders are at within the ecosystem. Are they ready, willing, able to adopt new technology? And do they have a need? Oh, no. They were not ready. They were not willing.
The gatekeeper said no.
No, that's not going to happen. And then you know how it is with insurance companies. You have POC hell. You live in there for 3 years and you don't go anywhere. So like I learned all of that very, very fast. That was not how I failed. That was a great pivot. I was like, oh, that's not going to work. What do I do? Well, I have to solve for the current need within franchising. And actually at that time, I was looking at both lending, the financial institution banks, and franchising. So at one in single experience, I was interviewing both people at banks and people in franchising. And the lenders have the same problem, guys. They have a team. I'll never forget talking to a bank in California, a team of 30 people monitoring evidence of insurance for all their loans. I was like, oh my gosh, that opportunity is still there.
That was like a light bulb moment. You're like, okay, my new funnel of leads are going to be lending institutions, SBA guys who lend on franchise.
Well, no, it was just lending in general. It was banks in general that had this problem. But yeah, to your point, like that's an opportunity, right? Like, so I was talking to those guys and because I really wanted to do insurance verification for them. But then I was also talking to franchisors, and franchisors also had this problem. And what I learned though, Jeff, is that you have to solve for the need that exists today that is relevant to them. You have to address their specific pain. And so when I went to the franchisors, guess what their pain was? There was no expectation for real-time data. They just needed to start monitoring insurance. Whatever that meant. And so I'm like, oh, cool. What if I just build certificate of insurance monitoring software? And what if I don't want to sell it? I don't want to compete toe to toe with other SaaS players that have been doing this for 10 years. I go, what if I just give it away for free? I'm like, I've sold insurance for 10 years, 12 years now. I can sell insurance again. And so that was the business model that I created was I'm going to build software. I'm going to give it away for free. It's the Divvy model, right? It's the Redo model. But this is back in the day. Divvy was the same time. And then I'm going to sell insurance. I'm going to sell insurance to the franchisees. So that's what happened.
Wow. That's awesome. Keep on going.
So I don't know how to do it though. I don't know how to build software. Well, I do a little bit. We built our own agency management system and I took over the product owner role back in 2008. So I had been building software with an offshore team for about 10 years prior, but I'm not, what I meant by I don't know how is I'm not I just learned as you go. That's it. I didn't go to school, no formal training, but I didn't know about, the MVP and maybe V1. I really wanted to build the version 25 again. I'm like, I had something in my mind that I so badly wanted to see come to fruition that I started building that. And that's where I messed up. And so I partnered up with a third party, the buy versus build argument. This is a great argument. And I decided to buy. I partnered with a third party. I worked with them for 8 months. And all of a sudden, in a phone call, they're like, hey, we're going to change directions. We're no longer interested in building this product. I was done. Right? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I don't like buying anymore because I've been burned. And I had these developers. And I had a developer that I called a technical co-founder. I had his buddy on board, which was, just another developer. And it was kind of all just equity stuff, no cash really, no payments. And I had a UI UX designer. And all this stuff started happening at the exact same time. That company was bailing on me. All 3 dudes were gone in 24 hours. Every single one of them emailed me, chatted me, called me, whatever it was. Hey, Wade, I've got something else going on. I can't do this anymore. So there I was, ground zero, by myself again, asking, what the hell am I doing? 10 months into this thing. I've already spent, I don't know, not a ton of money, 50, 60,000 bucks, whatever it is, 70,000, I don't know. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I don't have anything to show. And I had this I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I had this developer that I found in Mexico. His name's Benson. And Benson, I was like, you know what, Benson, can you just get this thing going? And there was an overlap with Benson and my technical co-founder for 2 months. And there was some headbutting, but Benson was actually performing. Offshore developer, like what the heck? And I called up Benson one day, we're doing our morning stand-up, whatever. And I'm like, dude, Benson, where you at, man? Like, we're in Mexico. He's like, oh, I'm not in Mexico. I'm like, what? He's like, no. He's like, I live in China. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like, China? Yes. Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, I lived in Mexico for 1 year. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, whatever, dude. Benson is with me today, still 3 years later, with a team of 3 people in China. And we have a completely fully functioning product built, works, like about 100 franchisors on it, 5,000 franchisees in the system. And I'm like, nobody succeeds at offshore development. Like, that's not a thing it's crazy.
Is he from the States, Benson?
No. He's a Chinese national.
Okay, got it. What part of China? I'm just curious.
I don't know, man. There's a billion people over there. He's told me before.
I wonder if he's from Shenzhen. Like, that's where like their tech capital.
You know what? That actually sounds that sounds right. Yes, yeah. I think it is.
So I was born in Beijing, and I grew up there until I was a little kid. I came over here at 11, right? I'm a naturalized citizen. And I went back in 2019 and visited Shenzhen. It is crazy. It's like 22 million people live in one city. It's a tech hub, like BYD, Alibaba, Tencent, DJI, Apple, Foxconn, and then just everybody is all in one single place. Anything designing, innovating hub. Like, he could be supernatural talented here, but over there he could be like absolutely nobody, just because the level of competition is so crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. He's been, dude, I have no complaints about Benson. He's been great. I've had his code checked a few times.
In China and South Korea and Japan, I think those 3 countries really have a thing called 996. I don't know if you ever talked to Benson about 996, but next time you talk to him, ask him, it's like, hey, Benson, is 996 real? Okay. And what it is you go in a company, any startup or any tech companies, the schedule is 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That's your actual work schedule, right? And they come from, and that was something that they were challenged with at a very young age, because starting from kindergarten, your school schedule is Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Yeah. Can you imagine like putting our kids for that hour of school at 5 years old? But they train them that way. It's almost like systematic train. But and then like 996, they have like sleeping bed at most tech offices. And because you crash and you have to take a nap, so they just like,
oh my god,
yeah. So like everybody have like sleeping bed. Not everybody, I wouldn't say that, because some people they push them through like have another coffee, right? But it is crazy competitive culture of innovation and pushing to the next level. So
it's incredible. Yeah, like that sounds about right. When you said 996, I had no idea what that meant, but like, me and my partner always asking ourselves, like, dude, when do these guys sleep? I swear they're always working. I'm like, I didn't ask for them. I swear they just do it.
That's really one of the reasons to the population collapse over there and nobody having kids. You know, they got away with the one child policy so long ago, but there's no turnaround, just because to stay in a society status, you have to have money, you have to have success. And then the 996 culture, when do you have time for kids?
No, I know. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's and part of their culture now too, which is super challenging to probably change.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Wait, go
Oh, you
back. Your story was great. Like, keep going.
I don't know where I'm at. Oh yeah, everybody's left me. I was like all by myself again. So what do I do? Man, that's tough. That's really tough to go through. And I think that's why when people ask you, there's so many things that go in my mind about the whole argument, discipline versus motivation, right? Like, oh, you got to be disciplined. You do the thing day in and day out, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, motivation's not as powerful as discipline. I'm like, I think you need both. I do believe that motivation gets you through those types of moments. I think discipline is important. It supplements it. And then there's other days where it's like, you're not motivating, you need the discipline. But like, I think both are just as relevant and just as important, because like, if I didn't have this compulsion to build this thing that I so deeply believed in, that was the day I should have just stopped. Like, that was it. Like, everybody's gone. Product's not being built. Like, what am I supposed to do? And I was like, I think I took a walk around the neighborhood for 30 minutes, came back to my desk and started making calls again to figure it out. Like, it was crazy, man. So I kept asking the questions, and I came across somebody else. This is really cool part of the story too, I think. And I knew this guy. I started at the time too. I was actually posting consistently on LinkedIn, and I didn't know why. And I wasn't going viral. I wasn't getting thousands of views. It's not about the result. Often it's simply about doing it. And that's what I was doing. And one of these dudes reached out to me, and he's like, dude, what's up, man? Like, what are you up to? He's like, it seems like really, really interesting. This is pre-launch, pre-revenue, pre-everything. And I knew this guy when I was like 13 years old. Like, I grew up with the dude, and I hadn't talked to him for 15 years. And I'm like, hey, we should chat, man. Actually, the first time he pinged me on LinkedIn, I just kind of responded back to him. I didn't really think anything of it. And 2 weeks later, he chatted me again. I'm like, oh, I guess he wants to chat. I had no idea, man. And so we have a conversation, and we talk, and then we talk some more. And the call probably ends up being an hour long. And I'm like, that was really interesting. And then we talk again, and then we talk a third time. I'm like, dude, I don't want to like say anything or put words in your mouth. And I'm like, is there something here? Like, as if you're dating somebody, right? It's the same, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, is there something here? Like, you know what I'm talking about, Jeff, right?
That was a recorded call.
Yeah. So like, he's like, no. He's like, for sure. He's like, I'm super interested in jumping on with you. This is a good pre everything. And so that's what happens, man. We figure it out, and he jumps on board. I call him the co-founder, and this is about 18 months into the journey. And so his name's Jonathan. He's been awesome. Like, I couldn't have done it without him. But he tells me later, he goes, Wade, you don't understand what happened. He goes, when I reached out to you, I was actively looking for a startup to jump into. He goes, I talked to a bunch of people. I talked to some of my buddies. I talked to other people. He goes, I was looking. He was like, I was done with what I was doing. I didn't want to do it anymore. He was at a $3 billion medical device manufacturing company, like the marketing department and product development department. And he didn't want to do it anymore. It's like, so many people have such the golden handcuffs on. Like, I did, he did. And yet there's this calling that you have to answer. And if you don't answer, it's going to just bug you for the rest of your life until you finally do it. And so he jumped on board, and he had a product development background. He had design, UI, UX background, marketing background, really interesting background. And a month and a half later, we went beta with our first franchise client. And it looked okay on the front end. And then on the back end, we called it Wadeimation. So it was me doing a bunch of the processing. So it was not automatic. But it was our first franchise client. And from there on, we just kept asking questions. I love innovation. The R and the I in RICOR actually stand for relentless innovation. And so anytime I can innovate, improving the customer experience, reducing friction, improving operational efficiency and internally, like that's where I live and breathe. And from there, man, you just keep pushing. So.
Wow. Where are you guys at today? How many customers you want to talk some of that, and how's your software development going?
Yeah. Yeah. So we are an insurance agency. I'll say that we do leverage a lot of technology. I have different ideas on the insurance industry or insurance agency space, and I can talk all day long about that. And I think that's actually an interesting topic. You'll probably have some of those guys on this. I wanted to rethink what it meant to be an insurance agency. I don't believe anymore in the traditional insurance agency model. I think we're incentivizing producers to become bad actors by selling insurance policies that are not fit for the typical consumer, just so they can make money. So I don't agree with that. And I experienced it firsthand where it's a very I and my mentality. It's whenever you speak to a producer and you ask them how they're doing, and the response that they'll give you, pay attention next time, is they'll tell you about their book of business. They'll say, my book is X. That's a problem. The problem is that they're focused on themselves. Typically, they're not a team player. Typically, they're not going to be helping out other people. And I'm going to piss off a lot of people right now because they're like, I'm a team player. I'm like, cool. You're the 1 out of 10. But most of us are incentivized to focus on our book of business, and that's okay. And so I changed the agency model, Jeff. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing commissions. I'm going to do a W-2. I'm going to do payroll. I'm going to do pay. And you got to do a lot. But I looked for a different type of persona. I didn't want the hunter that's going to make $1 million or have a $1.5 million book of business, because he's going to kill it. I'm looking for the consultant that's phenomenal at consulting, but not so much at prospecting or hunting. I bring these guys in house. My first guy comes on in February 22, and I was super scared. I'm like, I hope this thing works. I have no data. I have no validation except for 2 months of production at that point. This dude ends up doing, I did the math the other day. I think he ended up doing $200,000 in revenue the first year with this business model.
That's pretty cool.
Pretty freaking rad.
I had to just take one more step back, right? When you launch an agency, there's also another component on bringing carry on board, right? Like we know that franchise is nice because it is a profitable space for most commercial carrier in the small commercial space. But at the same time, like what you want some of the big national accounts, and national accounts are not easy to get out of the gate. Can you, would you mind sharing a little bit your carrier partners?
Yeah, absolutely. 100% correct. Fortunately, I never burned a bridge. I was a really good partner with my insurance companies, and I looked at them as partners, not somebody that worked for me. And so I had all the relationships, Jeff. I called up all my guys. I called up the, CNA and Hartford and Travelers and Nation. I got every single contract I wanted. I just pitched them the idea. I had been pitching some of these guys, Jeff, this idea since 2018, mind you. So all of a sudden, when it popped up and when it was relevant, and I think I started getting contracts in 21, it was still too early, because 22 is really when I tell people we got traction, which is pretty accurate. They were, yeah, sure. Here's the contract, man. So I got, a bunch of national carriers out of the gate and was quickly becoming one of the fastest growing agencies in this area. I think 5 of the companies told me we're the fastest growing agency in Utah, if not their region, which is really cool. So yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. Shout out to that. Yeah. Well, what are you sitting on today? Do you track your carrier size numbers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 2.5 years in, we're at that $10 million premium mark, which is really cool. We have a good spread with all the insurance companies we work with for the most part, except for a couple of them, but most of them are pretty good. We work a lot with, AmTrust and UFG and Hartford and Travelers, and Westfield is also a good player of ours, which we went national first, and then we started going after the super regionals.
Westfield, Hartford, CNA, those are all really strong players.
Yep.
Any insurtech carriers you work with?
Oh, Coterie is the only one. I love the guys at Coterie. This is one of those moments, Jeff. Do I say something? I'm not a huge fan of their policy forms, unfortunately. So they're kind of like a backup plan if we need to use them. But yeah, that's the only one. Otherwise, it's traditional insurance companies.
Yeah, they've been doing this for a long time, and they've got to figure it out. So
they have it figured out, man. Yeah, and we use Coterie as or not Coterie, Coalition for management liability and cyber. That's great. They do a good job. But yeah, we have a good spread with the insurance companies. That they're super impressed, super pleased, and the team. Yeah, we're just cruising, man.
Nice. So fast forward a year from now, I'll have you back on the pod.
Sure.
What are some of your comfortable goals for the next year, and what are some uncomfortable goals?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question. I think all of my goals are relatively uncomfortable, to be honest with you. I don't know if I have any comfortable. Let's go. Yeah, this year we'll end off at about 12 million. Next year we want to do another 10 million. So we'll be a 20 million plus shop, 22, something like that. Retention is always super important, right? We're hovering right around 92%. So we want to maintain that. If we can ink out a little bit more, that'd be phenomenal. So we're trying to do that kind of stuff. I don't have plans for headcount, right? I've learned that planning for headcount is irrelevant. It's all about profitability. And so I want to continue to increase profitability for the company. So that's the objective: increase profitability, improve operational efficiency. So how do I invest in technology to be able to improve output or production for each individual person within the organization so I can maintain headcount and not just have to like scale up headcount with revenue? I think that's dumb. So those are some like the goals, and doing that thing that I just mentioned, that's super, super challenging, right? A lot of people don't get that right. And you're doing, $3.5-4 million of revenue, and all of your liabilities just increase it. And so therefore your profitability just sucks. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to have an extremely profitable company.
That's awesome. Well, I am going to put all your links in the comment, from your LinkedIn to your company, your website, your email, whatever you want to give me, shoot me a DM later. And, so let our followers know how they can reach out to you. And if there's any franchise out there that want to work with you, I'll put it all in the comment section. So thank you very much, Wade, for jumping on the show. And I appreciate your time today. This was fun. So we'll have you back soon again.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks.